Hey guys, Actual Dracula here.
What's happening? Comic Ozzi here. How are you?
Yeah, and we're joined by, as you can see here, Vancouver Comic Junkie and Newbie Comics.
What's happening?
How's it going, guys?
Well, I'm a little tired, but I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like the lower half of this foursome here is the bottom half is
waking
tired, but
we'll send some vibes down there so you guys can wake up a little bit. Yes,
I got coffee.
Right on. I guess everybody's having a great weekend so far.
Yeah.
Cool.
can't complain.
Yeah.
I don't really get weekends this month, so it's gonna be I'm working all of my weekends, so just the way it is this year.
Do you work towards like a long break?
Yeah, well, I had like 4.5 weeks, 5 weeks off for Christmas.
Yeah, so we don't feel sorry for that.
No,
Not at all.
But you know, I generally work 6 to 7 days a week during most of the year.
Yeah,
which is super fun, but whatever.
I have a friend that works at Pixar, and he'll work for 9 months straight, like massive hours, and then he'll get like 2 months off.
Yeah.
And then he'll do it again. It's just like
it's tough because like when you have the time off, you literally don't know what to do with yourself. Even though you have all this stuff to do, you're so tired you don't know what to. You just want to lay on the couch and do nothing, which is terrible for you. But,
and buy comics.
But I do a lot of that. Actually, I've been really not buying a lot of comics this year. I've been focusing on my CGC.
What, 30 days in?
Yeah. No, seriously, I haven't bought anything this year.
You're focusing on
just grading stuff.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
I got so many books to get graded. Like we'll talk about it in a bit,
right.
But like just like the amount of money you get for a graded book versus a raw book, it's just not worth selling in raw form.
Right.
So,
and that's part of the conversation that we're gonna have today. But I think both Adrian and Newbie, you both had like you have one in queue for submission, and Newbie already sent one off, right?
Yeah, I got 3 submissions out so far. Yeah.
3, like, are they staggered or are they just?
Yeah, they're staggered. Yeah, like I got one with a buddy of Chris's. I got like 8 books there. I did one with BC. So I got, 11 books there. I sent one off with Tim. He's got 5. I sent one off with one of my other shops. I have like 8. So yeah, it's just all staggered around.
Are you just trying like different people out, or?
Yeah, just trying out to see. Just simply because the shops around here, you know, they're charging like $78 a book, basically for like modern. So that's like a joke. So yeah,
it is. It's a lot.
That's crazy. Adrian, have you decided? Because I know when we did our video last week, you were kind of like deciding what to send and what not to send. Like it's a big choice to make.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't really been like a rush for me. There's nothing that it's like, oh, I need this subbed right away. It's primarily stuff for my PC.
Okay.
There will be probably a couple books in there that I might be looking to sell, like some of my doubles. But it's stuff that, you know, these are books I've had. Some of them I've had for close to 2 years now that I've just been sitting on, and I've picked up a few more recently. So I've decided I'm finally going to do my first CGC submission.
It's your first one ever. It's your first one ever, right?
First one ever. Yeah, it'll
Are you
probably
gonna do it yourself? Like you'll do all the processing yourself, or are you gonna get someone to press?
I'm gonna get it pressed. And Ozzy told me about the presser he uses, so I think I'm going to send them off to him, and then he
just submits,
take care of that, submit everything. Yeah. Because there's definitely some books in there I want to get pressed. Some modern stuff I don't think I'll even bother with. It probably doesn't need it, but there's just
be careful of that thinking.
Yeah,
like a lot of people think that modern books don't need it, and sometimes they do. Like you're just published with too much ink on the page, and the page warps a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going to defer judgment to the presser. I'll be like, you decide if you think this is going to get a bump by pressing it or not. You know,
he's pretty good. He'll look at something and be like, "You need to fix this. You need to fix that, or that's fine. That's fine. That's fine."
Mm-hmm.
So
what's he charge for the whole process, like pressing, cleaning, all the way through to CGC?
Man, it just depends. It depends what tier you're after too. I think it's per book, it's I want to say it's $8 to press and clean.
Mhm.
8 or 10, $8, something like that. And then depends what tier you're, whatever it is. I think that's what's 22 now, or no, they raised the price, right? It's 20 something bucks.
Yeah.
And then if you want fast track, it depends what the book, like if it's, of
But
the age
he
and price.
charges the processing fees and stuff.
No.
He must.
No, he's
Oh,
getting
so he's
there.
like doing friend rate. Like he's just charging for pressing.
He's just kind of charging for pressing. He makes
Wow.
maybe I think a couple bucks or a buck off of submission, but he pretty much gives you his price. He's really good.
Wow, that's incredible. He's a terrible businessman, but
But he's
enjoy that.
He might watch this. He might watch this later on. He's a good guy.
Well, no, he probably is a great.
He is a great guy. Yeah,
he's a really great guy.
I assume you've been very pleased with his results as a presser.
And he's extremely conservative on because he'll give me a list and it'll be like, this is going to be this grade, this is going to be this grade, and he's very conservative. So when it comes back, I'm like, cheering because it's usually higher. So, but
my presser's like that too. He's incredibly conservative, so that
you have to be.
don't
I think
too surprised.
Yeah.
But,
why don't we check in with the chat and then I'll give you a little lay of the land of what we're kind of after today. And
all right, what's up, Ruby White Tiger? What's going on? Thanks for joining us. We got Wesley from Future Specs.
Wesley, welcome.
Ignacio, hello. We got Mr. Michael Baker as well. What's going on? And Just Cruz. What's up, Football and Comics?
Yeah,
and there's a newbie.
And there's newbie.
All right. Yeah.
Hey, newbie.
So what I thought we'd do today is I am going to be unboxing some books. There's nothing really crazy in there, but it was just to start a conversation. One about getting certain books at a reasonable price, and it's it's an idea of like that was brought up by Swagga House. He did a video calling an entry point into a book, trying to find the best price that you can, and then knowing that there's going to be value in that book, because we all know that where you make your money, and eventually every book is kind of for sale to some degree. Like, I mean, maybe there's a couple books you kind of want to keep, but there's always a price for something. So you're always going to feel that there's going to be value in that. So when you buy that book, you know that the end price, that there's going to be X amount of value on it. So I think that there's something important that, along with that, is adding more value to the book by, one, again, getting it pressed, getting it clean, getting it submitted. Because we all know that a graded book sells for way more than a raw book, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Big time.
Usually, like, I mean, sometimes people try and charge prices for a raw book that's close to a graded book, which is,
and that could also change too, because I mean, I know there are certain, like, Newbie and I have a friend who I'll remain nameless right now because he probably doesn't want us talking about his business, but we have friends that like do sell raw books for almost CGC pricing, but it takes a certain type of book to do that, and it's like a golden age rare book or a high grade silver age could possibly break a CGC price of a Marvel key. But they're, the average book from the Copper Age or the Modern Age is going to get you about 30% to 50% of what a CGC is going to get you.
I think also too, like, I think some people have to, calculate the weight now, right? I mean, like, if you're just sending books in, you're looking at almost 8 months, maybe more.
Right.
I know a buddy, or, he's been on all the chats. But Tim sent off some books, and I know his shop guy said that they sent them off in May of last year, and they just got them back now.
May.
I'm in that boat. I have a box I just got, and I sent it in July, and I have 3 pre-screens that should be back soon. But who knows now? Like, they went in August, so I mean next month now. Like, that's 7 months.
Yeah.
The box I'm going to open today, I think I submitted it late summer, and it just got back now. And then half of the order didn't even show up. So yeah.
Is there an echo?
I think there's a little bit of an echo. Yeah.
Okay.
It's
getting it from me.
I think so. Yeah. Well, I don't know who. I just hear my voice after I say it.
No. But yeah, no, I think that's got a big deal to do with it, where people are like, okay, you know what? I guess I'll just, give you X amount just because I don't want to wait 8 months. But then I'm always curious to know, like, okay, you're buying a raw book at a CGC price, but are you going to grade it yourself? Like, you're still going to be waiting that same amount of time, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, with modern books, like too, there's like a hot point of time when you sell it, and usually it's within the first 3 weeks of buying it, like off the stands. But I'm finding right now, like I'm seriously considering certain books, because like if I have books that will sell for like Moon Knight when it comes out, and I honestly have 150 books that I should have CGC'd for the next 2 months, and now I have certain ones that I have to pick out I have to pick out a value tier of them. If it's over $500, I may do walkthrough on them, because those same books raw, I may only get $150 for.
Yeah.
But if I pay the $150 to do walkthrough service and get the book back in 2 weeks, I can get like $500 to $700 for it. So yeah, that's worth it to me to do it that way. Like, there's a lot more profit in that. But that bill for CGC is insane. And it's stupid of me that I didn't send these books earlier. But I honestly didn't see 7-month waits on books.
Right. I think that's also important too, is like finding those windows. Like, I'm trying to be a little bit more diligent about, it's because everything's tied into the movies and TV and everything. I'm trying to be a little bit more diligent and getting my books prepared, knowing that there's probably going to be a 7-month gap before I get it back. And when that premiere of that movie or TV comes out, so you can maximize, right?
Yeah.
And again, these are books that I do want to sell when the time is right. So, it's you got to take the time to sort of plan things out. But again, it's everything that's going on with these grading companies, not only CGC, CBCS is long wait times now too. So it's
PGX.
Everybody's a long wait time now. Yeah, there's no person,
even PGX.
Yeah, apparently.
Really?
Yeah. EGS as well is like increased their wait time as well, but it's a tough thing to navigate, right? Not knowing when the end result is going to be. So
I just started sending stuff every month now, so I just have stuff always coming in. Hopefully that starts soon.
Is that just for the excitement, knowing something's
is
that box arrive?
Well, but I'm at a point now where I'm spending so much money at comics. I do have to sell some comics now to kind of. I mean, I don't, but at the same time, I do.
Dirty flipper, man. Dirty flipper.
Well, yeah. Well, to pay for what I'm doing, because I want the hobby to finance itself. And
well, you get questioned when you do that, man. I just got questioned yesterday saying that
that guy.
I don't love comics. He like tried to attack me.
Where was
I was like, all right, cool.
But that guy's a hoarder. I guarantee it. He's just sitting all by himself in his little hoarding house and stacks his shit everywhere.
His name is Kryptonite Comics. He left a comment on my video that I did yesterday.
Oh, in the video, it wasn't in when you were doing it with
No, it was the video, the flea market one, where I like specifically said this trip was just to find books to flip on my journey to my Tales of Suspense 39. And he left a comment. He deleted it though, so like I wish he would have just kept it up. But he just said, "Oh, people like you guys don't love it. Flipper, you have no love for comics, blah blah blah." I don't know, something like that.
If you don't have an endpoint, I don't give a shit what people do to get to where they want to go. If you're truly collecting for something, like I love Newbie because he may not keep every book, but he has an end goal. Like he wants that first appearance of Iron Man. That to me is a true collector, and he's working his ass off. And most people will never get that because that's like a $10,000 to $20,000 book at the beginning of buying it, and so it takes time, and I mean that's what I try and do too. But I mean, if you're flipping, like we have guys out here who are literally flipping just to add extra money, like they're paying for a lease for a BMW or something. They just don't fucking care. And I don't know. I'll be honest, I don't really dig those guys because they're just like eating away at our hobby and taking books away from everyone else. But I'm still a huge collector. I like to add a few books every month, like really good books to my collection. So
But if you can, but here's the thing too, though. Like, if I go to a shop and they have something and there's like 4 copies, if I don't take them, somebody else will. Right? And that's something that a lot of people don't realize. So it's like, okay, you know, like if I won't do it, somebody else will. At least I'm honest and say, you know what, this is what I'm collecting. This is what I want to keep in my PC. This is what I'm flipping to get more stuff in my PC. Right? Yeah. Like you look at the stuff that I've been able to flip to. I mean, in the last 2 years, I've been able to flip myself to a Hulk 181, Giant Size X-Men 1, and then Tales of Suspense 40, right?
Yeah, it's impressive.
So what's the issue?
It's the dream. It's literally the dream of everyone.
And that's literally the hobby paying for itself. Like, you can't do that. You can't say that if you're into, like, I don't know, stamps or whatever your vice is. Like, there's not many that you can. So I don't know. Like, I have no problem with it. I have no shame with it, but you know,
I just find it interesting that this whole idea came about. Like, I mean, and I'm gonna talk about, you know, some of the work that I do. I'm in real estate and I flip homes, and that's part
dirty
of
flipper.
That's
you
part
don't
of
love
my
homes.
Yeah, you're
you
the
don't
dirty
like houses.
flipper.
You don't
That's
like
what
homes.
You're rooting for my kids.
We're churning out a product. You know, we're taking it, we're making it better, and we're handing it over to a family. But in that realm, no one says you're a dirty flipper. It's just a business that you're in. I think just because comics are in the realm of a hobby, of you know, it's not. It's, you know, it's maybe it's not your specific business. Maybe that's what they're, you know, why they're taking that angle. I don't know.
Man, I don't know. Like, I'm friends with, like, you know, older collectors and you know, young adults like Chris here, and even younger people than me. And it's,
this guy,
you know, everybody says the same thing. Like, I don't know how many shows I've gone to in the last like 2 years, and obviously it's not many because of COVID, but there's been a lot of people that I've met, and it's just different ages and, you know, different realms of when they started collecting, but none of them say anything. Like, they're asking me, hey, what book should I flip? Hey, do you think this is a good flip? Because everyone has one of those goals of like, hey, if I can flip this book and get like one of those big keys. Yeah. Like, if you got $20,000 and you want to go spend $20,000 on a book, I mean, hey, that's great. But most of us don't have that equity to go spend on something that's going to be on our shelf. You might love it as much as you want, but it's tough to have a big book just sitting there, right? Like, it's a great hobby, but like, you know, the equity that you might have, it's useful in other places, right? So if you're able to flip towards it, why not? Like, you're not harming anybody.
It's funny, you know, I had this conversation last week with some other collectors, and I think most like real collectors are basically on the same page as all of us. But one thing I've seen is that some people, and I think it's the business mentality of like, they look at their collection as like this viable investment for the future. And I try very hard not to think of the keeper books like that for me. Or I would let them go easily. But I don't want to let them go because I've been that guy who let an incredible collection go in 2004. And I would be sitting on $2 million worth of books if I would have kept that collection right now. And I'm pissed at myself for doing that. But at the time, I benefited greatly from it. But saying that, now I look at like I have probably about 100 books that are like untouchable. Like, I won't let them go in the next 20 years because they're my love. I love them. And only a few go in there every so often now. Yeah. And everything else is like to get another one of those books. But they're kind of off the table for a while. I try not to look at them as any kind of investment strategy. Or
I want to apologize for all the honking, if you can hear that. I guess like the convoy's like going through one of my streets here. So
the Flu Trucks clan.
Yeah.
So, wow.
Actually, I had I maybe would circle back to that, but I had a question for you, Newbie. Who do you think is there, like, I guess do you think there's a certain kind of collector that, say, buys from you? Like, let's say you go to the shop and you buy up all the Thor 21s. We know it was
doesn't happen because my shops are all so my shops recently have all had 2 per limit. But they have basically said, hey, Noob,
good.
You want to order 50 copies of this book? Let me know before FOC. Let me know. I will give you 50 copies. But if it's after FOC, it's 2 per, and that's totally fine. I'm okay with that. Right.
My shop's the same.
But, okay, let's just, as an example, let's say you get like a hot new book this week, you get a few copies or whatever, and you flip them. Who do you think is buying those? Like, let's say you obviously are selling them at a higher price. Do you think it's just people that are worried about missing out? They're suffering from FOMO, or you think it's like they see some actual value in this book? They think that like it's going to go up even more. You know,
I think some of it is people who have FOMO 100%. I think it just happens. I always, I think all of you have heard me say, like after Friday, like a book comes out Wednesday, Friday, it's literally like, all right, on to the next book. Right. But, perfect examples is Black Panther that just came out on Wednesday.
Right.
Like the 1 in 25 is reaching $1,000.
Don't you mean the next Ultimate Fallout 4?
Yeah. And, it's funny though, because
I know. Same here.
I had sold one and this is a true story. I can find it. I'll like scratch out the guy's name, but I actually had 3 copies put aside for me. I sold 2, and then 1 I had to give to somebody because I have a friend who, for better lack, he's not mobile enough to go, right? So I got him 1, and I screwed myself over. I didn't expect it to be this crazy, but I sold it to one guy, and usually, if it's a hot book, it's $28 to $30. That's where most people are selling it at 40. I'm gonna go under. I'll just get my 28 and I'm happy. But there was one of the guys that I actually sold it to used the same picture and was selling it for about $80. And I hadn't even shipped the book out yet.
Yeah.
And he's using the exact same picture as me. I know because I have a tattoo on my hand. And there's no way this guy has the same tattoo in the same location with the carpet that I have. Like it's just,
I think some people are doing that with the Black Panther
book he just bought from you. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of people. It's just where people get pissed off, I think, is okay, newbie got 3 copies. Oh my God. Yeah, but I pre-ordered.
Mm-hmm.
Like I got it on the ground floor. I paid cover. How am I the bad guy? If I go and sell for 28, the bad guy should be the guy that's paying 28 and selling it for 80, because now the person that really wants that book is like, fuck, I'm not paying $80 for it. I don't think I'm ruining the hobby. I don't think people like me are ruining the hobby. Now,
I find people that are bitching about almost anything in this hobby are people who like missed out or made a mistake or
not paying attention. Yeah.
Not paying attention.
Like, look at all these avenues you have. You got Facebook groups, you've got Reddit groups, you've got Instagram, you've got YouTube channels, and we're all talking about it. Like everybody's been talking about this FOC for like 2 weeks already. So like if you don't know that a hot book is coming, you have the exact same 24 hours waking up, getting down, whether you work midnight, swing, afternoons, nights, whatever the case may be. You have the exact same opportunity as myself, Ozzy, Drac, Chris, anybody to get as many copies as whatever book you want. Mm-hmm. You just have to read the information, find it. I hate when those people, I get some people are like, well, man, I work 9 to 5 and I couldn't get to it. My shop closes at 5 and, it's not easy. It's like, yeah, but if you were thinking of going to the shop and getting the hot book, you were probably going to lose out anyway, because Black Panther wasn't a heavily ordered book to begin with. Not a lot of people are on Black Panther. So that's, again, one of the reasons why I'm like, why are you getting mad at me? You should have just pre-ordered if you love Black Panther. Right? So
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
I think going back to the the exchanging of hands, I feel that's kind of what's happening with the 1 in 25. Somebody bought it for 75, somebody's buying it for 250, but they actually don't have it in their hands, and they're just keep moving it along.
That book, so 6 months from now, so let's say June. So June, you'll be able to see it graded. Late May, early June, that's when the graded copies are going to be coming out. I wonder what they're going to go for graded. I do think that there's going to be a dip, but I think the only thing that really hurts that book from like just keep going and going is the fact that Bleeding Cool put, and I quote, "This is Ultimate Fallout 4 level," end quote, right? And I think that if once you put something into that level, when you attach that to any book, it's going to go up in price because people are going to be like, their argument is going to be just simply.
But that's dangerous journalism, is what?
100%.
Oh, absolutely.
100%. But people are going to say, you know what? No, I can't sell you this book for $1,000 because Ultimate Fallout 498 is $3,000. So I'm going to wait and I'm going to sell it to you for $3 because, well, look. And then everybody who wants to sell that book is always going to be like, look, this is what Bleeding Cool says. So, right? And that's the problem.
No, you haven't missed anything yet, Tim.
No, not yet. I think they're also hearkening to. I'm going to pronounce his name wrong. The Djurjevic variant.
You got it. Yeah.
That's what they're comparing it to, and I think that's very dangerous waters.
That's not even him on the cover though. That the people don't like, and that's what pisses me off is like
it's a great cover, but yeah,
it's a great cover, but that's not him on the cover. And people are like, oh, that's him on the cover. I'm like, you clearly don't know what you're talking about. It's not on the cover. I forget the character. We were just talking about it on Friday. But it's not him on the cover. Yeah. And that's what, people are comparing it to that, plus the Bleeding Cool. Realistically, if this was the stock market, I think Bleeding Cool would have been like sued. Because that's almost like doing Inside Trader by putting that on that book.
If you find out that they're benefiting from providing this information, I just think that announcement brought a whole another level of individuals into the mix rather than just the comic community. Like you said, like if that announcement hadn't happened, how much would that book be? Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I have a group of I have a few groups of people that I chat with about comics on text. A local group here of like older collectors who buy similar things to me, like older books. We're not really new collectors per se. And one thing I'm noticing about that group is a lot of them are really getting into the stuff that you're talking about right now, like modern books, and hearing like, you know, a book like that Black Panther is worth money, and they're showing up at the comic stores on Wednesday mornings now to get those books, and they would never have done that even 6 months ago. And I worry if guys like that who literally were like, fuck modern books because I've been burned so many times on them, are getting diverted back to it. It worries me about the modern books again. It's like they're every week there's like 3 new manufactured keys. Like they're actively putting first appearances in it because they know they'll get pre-ordered to 400,000 copies.
But and also like eventually
that's troublesome, guys. Like be careful of this. Like down the road, like I went through the Image boom. It's starting to feel like that.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I just throw.
But the thing too, Chris, and we've had this conversation many times because you know you don't necessarily pick up modern books on New Comic Book Day, right? And
but I got burned in the 90s on it.
Yeah, but you know, eventually there is going to be a book that comes out, you know, and I don't even know if we should be calling it modern because modern started in like what 90, 91, right?
Ultra modern.
It's weird. They should be splitting it up. They should call like the 90s, you know, silver or platinum,
silver, chromium,
or they got to start splitting because it's becoming like 35 years now.
Pouch age.
But in the last, let's say the last, let's go 2015 to now, right? In the last 7 years, I keep forgetting we're in 2022. So in the last 7 years, though, right? Like people moving forward and even coming into this community, when you look at the keys that us have grown up, like I'm the youngest in this group, right?
Yeah.
But we look at the comics that have come out, right? Like, you know, you're talking Hulk, Wolverine, X-Men, you know, Tomb of Dracula, Punisher, like just all these like big characters we've seen on movies. Okay, that's fine. But like, again, going back to who's coming in the entry point of our community, an 18-year-old, 16-year-old who wants to get into comics is not going to be able to afford that. I mean, maybe if he buys enough NFTs and sells them, but eventually there's going to be new Comic Book Day releases that there's going to be one of those books that's like a $5,000 book down the road, right? And
I don't think Fallout 4 is like what the biggest key of the last 25 years. I imagine.
Ludocrats 1 in 25. You know how hard it is.
I think it's the largest like populist key.
But even that book took a while to take off. Like for the longest time, like nobody wanted that book, right?
No.
Yeah.
Well, it was unheard of. An African American / Puerto Rican Latino, younger than already Spider-Man that we have. Like, how are they going to make that work, right?
Right.
So,
God, I hate that I never bought that book at $200 in 98. I remember I had tons of opportunity. All my friends were like, you should buy that. You should buy this.
Same. Yeah.
Anyway, how about Silver Age?
Actually, this made me think of this. Because this does have to do with our which I guess we'll start to talk about grading a bit more eventually, but leading into that, like, how do you think with all these people buying these modern books, not only just buying them, but then getting them graded immediately. And the fact that there's going to be so many high grade copies of these books that say this Black Panther book is like
all of them,
the next Ultimate Fallout 4, but every copy is a 9.8. So then what's the value of a 9.8 going to be in comparison to say something?
Well, that's the same thing. That's the same reason why I've always felt like the people who are banking on Ultimate Fallout 4 to have the same price value as AF-15, I think are going to be mistaken, because you look at how many copies there are of that book compared to this book, right?
Are there people that really think that's the case? Like, that will happen?
I think so too.
Fucking broken in the head.
That's what they think.
That's like saying Action Comics #1 is going to have the same price as, Hulk 181. It's like a 40-year age gap. It's crazy.
They're just completely different books. Like, we have to understand that.
To Adrian's point, though, I've told you guys this many times. I sound like a broken record, but there are people who go to Bigby. There are people who go to Sketch, and I've seen them. There are people who go to what other shops? Comics One, Comics OK, and they will get their books from their pull. They look at them to make sure they got all their copies, and then they go, "All right, send them off to CGC, please."
From there,
and this is the thing. What I was getting to is like, then if so many people are doing that, and you have a book with a fairly high print run, and you have a lot of people sending them off to get submitted right away.
That's why it's taken 7 months.
Because people are sending their fucking Ludocrats second print, like 10 copies of them, because there's a guy talking about it, and they're like, "This is going to be huge," but really, it's not. It's not going to be huge, right? And that's the problem that you get. You got guys sending off and collect whatever you want, but like, I'm sorry, if you're sending off, Batman comes back as Black Knight, Blue Knight, Gotham City, Future 1.1, right? Like whatever it is, like you might like it, but like when you're sending like 35 copies of it to get CGC'd, and then 2 weeks later the book is nothing.
And I guess what I was getting at more was, instead of a comic sitting in somebody's short box for 10-20 years, it's going right from when they pick it up off the CGC, and so you see a lot of this. Does that make the grade more irrelevant when you go to the census and 80% of the books are 9.8s or 9.6? I mean, or
possibly even higher than that percentage. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I mean, look at that happened with, I think, like a bunch of those Last Ronin books. There's a whole bunch of 9.9s out there of that book.
Yeah.
There's actually a book I can't remember. I'm just thinking about it as we were talking. There's a book that I just got 9.8, and I just found out that there's a 9.9. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, it's never going to go where I want it. I'll make profit off of it 100%, but it'll never go where I think it'll go.
I think 9.9s and 10s are in a completely different category. I think that I don't think that they, like, if you look at a lot of books that have a 9.9 in it, and there's only usually like a couple, I don't think it really affects. It's a completely different animal altogether in that book.
But once they're known that there is a 9.9 or a 10, you know that there's crazy people. And Chris, we've talked about some crazy people that we know with crazy amounts of money who like throwing 10 grand or 20 grand is nothing to them. There's people that are like, fuck, if there's a 9.9 or 10, I want the 9.9 or 10. I don't want a 9.8, right? So it's that.
There's a guy out here who funny enough doesn't really go to one comic store. He's like quite elusive, but he buys from different places, and he doesn't live in the city. He lives outside the city, and he gets everything CBCS graded, everything, and he gets at least 2 copies of every book every week graded. I'm going to repeat that. Every book he gets on his pull list gets graded, and it's like,
doesn't matter what it is.
It could be like 80 books that week. Like, it's crazy.
Well, you wonder why they're so backed up.
What I'm getting at here is he has
dynamite.
I don't know
because that's literally like $100.
I mean, that's I see what I've seen what he buys, and he it's a lot of books, and he gets he orders stuff. Anyway, he told me his entire, like, he's got a basement, like I guess a rumpus room you'd call it, like a big ass room in the basement party room. It's like, it's full, like you can barely close the door of just CBCS books. Like, you can't close the door. And I'm like, what? And they're all from the past 12 years. He
must be great at parties.
Oh yeah, but I'm like, I
couldn't
worry.
throw one. He couldn't throw one, but he'd be great at parties.
I worry for him down the road. I really worry.
Well, that's
for him.
that's some of the conversations I've had, and I see Specsman in here, but like I've had some conversations with Specs and BC and like a few people where it's like, with the amount of time it takes to send off a CGC book, right? And I've actually started doing this. I've actually started writing it, so at the end of the year, I can kind of pinpoint a little bit more information. But I'm starting to I think I started doing this in like November, where I'm like, okay, the hottest books of November, right? The ones that came out, New Comic Book Day. Let's look at them where they are right now. Let's look at the FOMO. Let's look at the highest price. Let's look at the dip, and then let's look at where the prices are when the first ones start getting slabbed. And some of them tend to go up, but like some of them don't do so well, man. It's just almost like a weak flavor, right? Like the week's flavor, and that's pretty much it. So sometimes, yeah, do I want to hold on to one? Yeah, but then there's some other times where I'm like, fuck it, I'm just gonna sell it because one, I'm not really attached to Thor 20, so I'm okay letting it go. I don't think that 10 years from now it's gonna be a $5,000 book, right? Like I'm okay taking that pill. So
people all forget about this about modern books, and not many modern collectors want to hear this, but like they all, like the hot ones, go through the roof and then they dip.
Yeah,
because people just either forget about it or they're not, or whatever. There are various reasons for it dipping, and they just naturally dip. It's like a book. It's like a very expensive Silver Age book, Key, that's associated to a movie. After the movie, they dip. They just naturally dip by like upwards to 50%.
You mean Carnage is not going to be a $20,000 book?
No, it will not. No, well, it will. It's going to take a long time, and it'll naturally become that $20,000 with inflation and things. But saying that, people they dive out, like they think it's a failure if their book goes into that dip phase. It really freaks them out. But for me, I look at like these moderns. I'd much rather buy at that dip and know which one is the key, because you'll already know by that point,
right,
which one is relevant. Because I'm going back to, there's a lot of manufactured keys coming out of this modern era where people are going fucking spastic over whatever book, and 4 months later, no one ever talks about that book again.
Miracle Molly, Clown Hunter, Designer.
It's just irrelevant books. And so but in 6 months or a year, I'll know, and I'll pay that extra $20 for that book if it's raw or whatever to get it, because I know that there's future in it. But
so why don't we go into the conversation about what I had mentioned before, entry points into books, like looking for those entry points. Let's say it's picking up the book on New Comic Book Day, or trying to find a book that that's on your want list, but trying to find it at that point where maybe it fits in your budget, or that there's a future in it. Like, what do you think about it, like buying the book at its cheapest that you can find it for?
I'm gonna grab a book that fits this category.
All right,
I just got it from CGC on Friday.
Yeah, it's gonna be like AF-15.
But I mean,
that's the goal, though, in general, though, right, Ozzy? I mean, we always.
I don't know if it's a goal for everybody.
No, but I mean, like, you always want to find the book at the cheapest price, regardless if you're sending it off the CGC or not, right? Like, I think that's what everybody wants to do.
Right. And then I'd also mentioned, like, that is where you make your money, at that entry point. As soon as you buy that book for that specific price, it's going to be hopefully going up. That's exactly where you make your money. How much that is going to be is dependent upon the exit price, and it's dependent upon what you do to that book. If it's raw,
but it's also like, but it's also like, let's be fair too. Like, there's a lot of books that, and I see Specsman saying, best entry point is at cover plus grading. It is unlikely to ever get cheaper. False.
That's false.
That's false. Because Avengers 2, any Kang book that I picked up, Jessica Jones, any Iron, there's a lot of books that I found in the dollar bin, right? So like, it depends on the spec.
Right.
Like, a lot of the books.
Well, he's saying graded books. Like, I don't disagree with what he said, though.
He's
saying with grading.
With grading.
I could see.
Grading,
No, I think.
I thought it meant like
right.
finding. Then that's when.
No, that's your low.
If it's raw, yeah. But I have a book here I want to talk about.
Sure.
So when WandaVision came out, I remember 6 months prior to WandaVision, I'd heard Catherine Hahn was in the show, and And they were saying possibly Agatha Harkness she was going to be playing. And I love Catherine Hahn. She's an incredible actress. And I thought, well, she's dead. Like, they're not going to just throw her away after one show or something. There's going to be a few legs here. So I went after like Agatha Harkness stuff, and I went after like the like just like things associated to her, like this book here, which is 185, FF 185. This book you could buy, and I'll be honest, you still can buy this book for like $6 in back issue bins. So what I do is I'll go after a book like this, and 186 is the first Salem 7 or 6, which is associated to her as well. I went and bought those 2 books, and they were anywhere between $5 and $10 depending on the store. And I bought, I'd say, about 5 to 10 of each. So my buy-in was about $100 to $200, like for the 2 books. So this book here is a 9.8. I got a 9.8 pack, and I buy the highest grade. Like I don't buy everything. Like I buy only the best looking copies that are possibly 9.6, 9.8. And this book right now is going, I think it's going for about 500 US. I think it's sold recently for 500 US and 9.8. And because there's not a lot of them, like not a lot of people have done this book up yet, and people are turned on to it now because she now has a TV series.
You know, that character, actually, I think when we look back on it, I always talk about how that character, and even just the shows, right, are going to change everything, because people forget WandaVision was number 1. It was the number 1 show, right? It was the first show, not number 1. Sorry, it was the first show that came up. But even now, like, and I've talked about this with like the Pressable Defects, you know, with BC, with like a lot of people that we talk spec, is the shows have changed everything, because Agatha was in the show for 4 episodes until we finally, you know, saw the purple whatever and she did her magic. The book was still like this during the first 3 episodes. And then
her, like, you're talking FF 94, her first appearance.
Yeah. Right. But like it's crazy that's kind of what happens sometimes with these shows, is that you can take that wait and see approach with certain characters during the shows, right? Yeah. Well, Specs,
welcome, brother.
Thanks.
Hey, man.
Had to jump in. My favorite topic.
So back to this book. The buy-in on this was about $5, roughly average. I have about 6 copies of these. I'd say I'll get 3 9.8s out of this. I'm going to sell this book in the 800 US range because it hasn't lit up yet, and it's already at 500 US. But I'm going to get out of it around $800. And that $800 book will go into another bronze or silver key for my
such a flipper, man. Dirty flipper.
Yeah, but that's it. That's the point.
Buy me that key I want, you know.
That's the point. That's like that, you know, exactly that entry point into that book that you didn't know the exit point, how much you're going to make off of it, but you knew that there's a potential.
Yeah.
You put the work into the book to turn it into something later on, right?
And I will keep one. Like one will stay with me long term, because
I think you're like all of us. Like I think majority of us, we have like a couple. Try and keep one, sell one, put that back, recycle that back into the hobby. So, welcome, Specs. How are you?
Good, man. Good. Just hanging out. You know, Sunday afternoon.
Getting into the conversation. So
I did want to just highlight, there was a question here. Yes, from Kid Collector. Would you hold on to a Moon Knight 2? I take it you mean Fist of Khonshu 2, and wait for show to sell, or sell now?
I think you should have sold when it was like at hot. I mean, the book went from a $2 book to 120.
Yeah,
raw, right?
Yeah.
So,
see, I think the big thing is like, how much did you pay for the book?
Yeah.
Right. Like, like if I paid $2, I'll hold it. Right. Because you just never know. Right. If I paid $30, then the floor might be lower than my price point. So I might sell. Right. And so maybe why I hold a ton of books, but I'm significantly more apt to hold if I got it at a very, very low price point, because I don't think that book will ever be a $2 book ever again.
Yeah.
You know, like, I think so. I let it ride.
I think that's an interesting point too. Like that, the entry point into the book also is going to determine how you handle that book, right? Whether you keep it, whether you sell it, like that's also pretty interesting, because I know for myself, like, I mean, you're right. If you spend a little bit more on something, you're like, I can't let it go for whatever. Like, but if you got it for really cheap, you'd be like, no problem. Let's see where this thing goes, right?
But is there a book that maybe, and not just kid collector, but like just, is there a book when you talk about like, just any book with flipping it or selling it? Is there another book you really want? So if you paid, and he says he paid $70 for both. So it's a raw copy and a CGC 9.4, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, that's a pretty good price, but if there's $100 or $200 book that I know I really want, and I know that it's going up in value, I would be okay selling one of them, holding the other, and seeing where the character goes in the show. Right.
Right. So let's lead into adding the value to the book, getting stuff graded. Like, I know we're all in different positions of sending some books in. So why don't we just kind of go around and see, like, let's start with Adrian. Like, you have some books that you're going to be getting graded. What was the decision in terms of getting them together and even doing this? Because it's your first submission.
Yeah. It really depends on the book. I mean, there's a few there that off the top of my head I can think of are just straight up, these are PC books that I really want just encapsulated because, I like the way it looks. I want to preserve them. One being, say, Tomb of Dracula #1, right? That was one of the first big keys I got. That was important to me. And then in terms of the other stuff, it's like, the way I'm looking at it now is like, this is stuff I all really like and would love to have and keep in my collection. But if the grade is good enough and I see that there's I could potentially make a nice return on it, I'm not opposed to selling, a bunch of those books as well. Especially the ones like, for example, there's a couple of books I plan to get graded are like first appearance of Mr. Sinister. Not a super rare book. There's lots of them out there. But if I get a high grade on that book, I'm not personally attached to that book and would gladly sell that. Especially, it's not one I would sell right now because I think that's a very undervalued key book. But as soon as there is an announcement of the next X-Men project, people are going to be talking about Mr. Sinister, then that's a book I'm going to want to sell. So, and for that reason, that's why I am submitting that, because, either way, it's a cool book to have. But if if it comes back in a nice grade, it's like, then I might as well have that graded as opposed to trying to sell it raw. It makes so much more sense.
Wow. Yeah. Newbie, you got any thoughts on like adding value? The whole the idea is adding value to a book. Like, you have the entry point, you know what you paid for it, but adding the value, getting it pressed, cleaned, submitted. Like, is there there's some in value in that? Like, how do you feel about that?
It just depends, right? Like if I'm speccing on something, for example, and I want to get it slabbed, like, is it something that in 7-8 months time, is the value still going to be there, right? Because if it's the hot point right now, if I can get big dollars on, say, a raw, I mean, I don't think so. But there are some that, I just look far ahead and get, right? Like, some just made sense. And then some, it's just obviously PC stuff. Like, people always ask me, hey, why don't you re-slab your Iron Man 1? And I'm like, why? It's CBCS. Well, why? It's not going to go anywhere. Like, I'm not selling it. I'm going to keep it, right? So it just depends what your end goal is. And, like Adrian said, right, if you want to capsulate it and just keep it for yourself. So, yeah.
Right. Vancouver?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a modern guy, as everyone knows. And I've been fortunate that I know how to find like copper and like before 2000 books in good shape. And I've been lucky that way. So I mean, getting stuff graded is a no-brainer for me. It's like I almost have to. If the book is a certain grade already, it's ridiculous not to sell it graded compared to raw. Like, it's just would be stupid of me.
Especially if you find them cheap.
I have a lot of And I do. I mean, I mean, again, I still find high grade examples of this book. Not all the time, but like I'll find one a month. But then I'm also finding 20 or 30 other books or more of equal quality of other mini keys on their way up. And I enjoy that. And I've been very lucky in my specking with it. Like I don't have a lot of fat in my hoards, you know. There's not been a lot that have not done well, so I've been fortunate that way.
One of my the submission that I have sent with Tim Shop. So the submission cost me $350, right?
Yeah.
But
How many books?
8. But the books cost me $8.
Okay,
Nice.
right.
So 358 was my all in, right? So when you actually do the math, like what was that? The percentage of that is what, like maybe 2% of that, what I paid for, right? So when I get that book back, I know that there's some in there already that I know I can get $300 back, right? So when I do the equation, okay, I sell one for $390. My total for 7 books to get CGC was $90, right? So when you do
Are they all modern, or
what's that?
are they all modern?
No, there's some bronze and stuff like that in there too, but bronze, copper.
I think a big key to this too is like not to make, like, if you're flipping books and like every month to get a certain amount of money in, try this is still should be a hobby or a long-term investment, or it shouldn't be a part of your monthly income.
Right.
Or I think you're going to make mistakes that way, because desperation starts stepping into it. So I mean, I have other investment. This isn't my number one only thing in my life that I'm making money on. Yeah, it's all NFTs right now.
Specs, what do you like? How do you feel about like your? I don't know your stance on like grading. Like, is it just all just raw? Do you like how
grade
many
it
books
all?
do you submit?
I'm
Grade
like,
it all?
grade it all. Not really grade it all like Vancouver's buddy, but I mean, it's a very complicated formula, right? You know, I think sometimes if you are trying to make money and at least pay for the hobby, or, you know, for me, I kind of hybrid pay for the hobby / try to build a collection that has high likelihood of appreciation, right? Okay. And so, you know, whether it's me that sells them or my kids or whatever it ends up being, like, you know, I'm building a collection, like, you know, multiple copies of this or that, you know, buying it discounted from cover, okay, jumps to 10. And so sometimes I think people get a little bit lost in the idea of like, I need to hit a home run. This needs to be 10x what I paid for it after slabbing, right? And I think, having been in other businesses and collectibles, I think like even like the 35 to 50% margin on some books is great, right? Especially if you can do it at volume, right? And so I can tell you, for example, Moon Knight #3, first appearance of Hunter's Moon. Like, I ordered so many copies of that book, like 50, 60, right? And I probably sent 25 off to CGC. Well, that in a 9/8's $120, right? And so I paid $2 a book plus 38 total. That's shipping both ways and grading on Fast Track, which means I'm in it for $40, which means that even after fees and everything, I'm easily doubling my money on every single one that I submitted, and I can hold some, I can do whatever I want. So
how would you sell that many copies of that book in particular?
You just leak it out over time, or you just
like what like eBay type places?
Yeah. Like I mean, because I'm a huge fan of, like, I'm the asshole. It's like, what's fair market value? Okay, I'm gonna list mine 15% lower than that and just move it.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
So,
I'm not against
that many
that.
copies.
I
right?
do that. I do that.
What was that, Ozzy?
I said if you have that many copies.
Yeah,
right,
of course.
Yeah, makes sense.
My margins are good.
And if you're buying it so cheap,
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the point. Like, you know, I mentioned earlier, it's the point in which you got it. Other things that I kind of look at, I look, you know, I mentioned this to a few guys. I look at low census books, right? And we were talking about census earlier, about like a ton of things in 9.8, and there's 9.9s. Like, I don't think that matters. I mean, there's a 9.9 of ASM 300. Like, it's not stopping people from paying $5,000 for the 9.8, you know, because that 9.9 is just unattainable. But you know, I think that there's just certain books. I can actually show you guys a few examples where, like, the census is so low. Even if the last sale was $60, right? And usually that's kind of how I think about it. If it's less than double the cost of grading, I'd rather just buy it graded, right?
Interesting.
Then cross my fingers. But there's some books that just don't pop up, right? And when you think about long-term speculation, like having one or two of 7 9/8 of a book, like you can just name your price, right?
Yep.
And so, especially books I'm getting for $1, maybe I'll send them out, not fast track, press them myself, pre-screen at 9/8, and then I have it, right? And I have like so many examples of that book, those types of books. I have them right behind me. I can show you guys.
Next one, you pre-screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. It's I don't know why anyone doesn't. I mean, I just proved it.
I've learned that hard lesson now.
on a box I just got back non-pre-screen, and it was night and day. I got 9 4s and 9 2s back on 9/8 books. I guarantee you would have been pre-screened through at 9/8.
Yeah.
It's a fucking mess.
I mean, I haven't seen it. It says up to 10 to 15 working days longer. I haven't seen any delay from pre-screen. The thing, even if you like don't even want to think about it, right? Like you can pre-screen at any grade. So if you think they're all 9/8, whatever, you can pre-screen at 9, 8.5, whatever it may be. But they charge you way later in the grading process.
Yeah, which I prefer.
Right.
I don't want my money sitting there.
Exactly. So even if you don't care about pre-screening, like the idea that like they're going to use my credit card and I'm not getting books back for 5 months and that money's dead is not ideal. I'd rather pre-screen where they charge you a week before they send you your books home, and I can take that 4 months between when it's received and when I'm charged on a pre-screen. I could take that 1,000 and make it 3,000 or 4,000 by doing something else, right? And so
one thing I love about the pre-screening too, especially with 9/8, like I mean, you definitively get a higher percentage of 9/8 books back. It's just it's just the way it is. And all I have to do is sell one book, and I paid that box off.
Pre-screen's $5. Pre-screen's $5.
I think it's 6 or 7 now. But
it's $8.
Is it $8? Yeah.
$8. Yeah.
Will you guys pre-screen like say Silver Age books as well? Like say I want this in a 6.0 or don't bother.
I mean, but here's this is a submission.
You have to do too many
strategy. The submission strategy for me is I start to build out tiers of submissions, right? So you talked about X-Men 252, Mr. Sinister. Right? I have that right now, but I'm waiting to build out a submission of 25 books because I think mine is about a 9.0, right? And so I have a collection of books, and I'm like, these are books in kind of the 8.5 to 9.2 range. So what I'm going to do is when I get 25 of those books together, I'm going to send that 25 book submission off as a pre-screen at 8.5. Right. And so I know that nothing is going to get below an 8.5. And I have that for all tiers. Right. And even some of the, like I'm building out a Silver Age submission right now. There's probably some like 2.5s in there. Like I'll just pre-screen it to 2.5 and whatever I get above that is fine. So if you have a dealer account, which I'm working on getting, you can pre-screen each book individually. And I, for some reason, for a year on my account could pre-screen each book individually. That changes the game completely. Right. And so, I mean, pre-screen is 100% the way to go, right? Especially because I'm so heavy in the modern game, right? It's like, you get a 9.4 on a really modern book, and you're definitely losing money.
Right. I don't pre-screen Silver Age and the odd bronze simply because no matter what I get back, I'm usually in a profit margin of any sort. It's just the way it is. So, and
that's kind of the point on pre-screen too. Is like if I paid cover, which is 4, and even if I get it back, like I'm probably not submitting a book unless it's some long-term spec. Like let's say Thor 20, Thor 21, right? I got them all for, in my case, $2. But say you got.
How many did you get? I got to ask. How many did you get?
I'm curious too.
Over 100 to 21 and over 50 and number 20 for $2 a piece. But say
you have a dealer account now.
Yeah. So basically, say you pay cover that's 4, and then you get a pre-screen, you get charged for a pre-screen because it's not a 9.8. That's $12 a year into the book. Well, I'm probably not submitting a book that's not selling for 15 to 20 anyway. So even if I add $8 to my cost of that book plus cover, I still have room to make money on top of it. But obviously, if I get the 9.8, then that's the ideal situation, right? And so, man, it's a whole thing.
Well, that's about like selling them too. That's the key.
Yeah.
You got
to your realm is a little bit different than ours because you're the amount that you're submitting, like that's intense. Like it's interesting to see that dynamic, and I'm sure your situation is definitely not alone, like in terms of like turning over those books all the time, and the pre-screen makes 100% sense. Like I definitely learned that lesson, and I'm gonna be with modern books for sure. It's definitely worth the pre-screen. You know, you just save yourself like coming back, and it's like, oh man, it's a nice. I had to send, you know, I didn't know, and I have to send a book back. It's a signed book. I'm like, I need this as a 9.8, whether I keep it or not. So I you know, bit the bullet and sent it back. So
long story short, Dracula, like I would start if you're gonna send your first submission in now, start getting your next submission ready, because that's the biggest thing. Is like I for the longest time was like, I need to submit. It takes forever, and you're just pushing that kicking that can down the road. Like I'm at the point now where it's 25 books are back at my house every 2 weeks, because 6 months ago I was submitting 25 books every 2 weeks, right? And so if you're gonna like eat the cost of that for a little bit, especially if you pre-screen when you're not charged early, like I've run into that before in other things where I'm like, I dread the wait so that I don't submit, and then you're just making the wait longer versus just submitting, and
it's dead right. I'm trying to do 50 to 100 a month. That's what I'm trying to do right now. Just simply because I have so much stuff that just I want to be prepared for the sales of when things heat up for it. And I have a significant amount of books like that, and they have to get graded for that. So that's the way it is.
I mean, I'm at the point now where I don't want to wait any longer because of books that I could potentially sell. I don't want to miss out on a chance. You know.
And one thing I'm noticing about CGC too, like PSA is a whole different. The grades cards a whole like they are like fuck everybody, we don't care, pay us a ton of money.
They're opening up to a $50 tier, I think. Next week or a couple weeks.
Like CGC, I mean, I don't want to even like we can touch on this topic, but yes, they've raised prices, but they have improved turnaround times. They have improved transparency, right? And so the first price hike, what that yielded down the road was that we're all caught up, right? All the boxes being open. That took a couple months, right? But that's happened now. So now we're not waiting 6 to 8 weeks for boxes to be open. We're waiting about a week and a half.
And also compared to card prices, it's ridiculous.
It's reasonable.
Yes.
At $100 a card.
So now we have another $2 on top of books. My prediction would be that like these turnaround times start to shorten, right? A little bit, right? Because even the website stated turnaround times, if you're not fast tracking it, is what it is. But like my last 4 submissions have come back in half the amount of time that's stated on the website, right? And so like I think that getting your books in, like the wait might not be as long as you think it's going to be once this extra $2 starts coming into CGC's bank account, because they have a track record of improvements. I mean, people like to complain, but they spent money on completely revamping the submission page, which is like is significantly easier than it ever has been. They open boxes faster. They did that kind of trial where people were getting books back in like a week. I've been getting books. Yeah, I've been getting books back faster. I mean, clearly they're raising the prices and it's impacting the turnaround, right? And so, I just don't really worry too much about like if it's going to take. Like, if you're going to pay the lowest possible charge, which is economy, not fast track, you're going to wait. That's going to be any type of business, right? Like, people bring up the example, and I'm like, well, do you blame the postal service for first class mail showing up later than overnight? Like you pay more and you get it back, right? And so just send them off and kind of don't worry about it. And if you pre-screen, you'll know when they're coming back because your card will get hit for it. So
I got a question for you, Spexman. Is this a pure money making operation for you, or are you like working towards getting like some major like dream book of yours, or is that on the table for you? Like what's your end game here? Is it just pure investment?
No, it's pure. I mean, I love books, right? And I love stories, and I like the hunt, right? Like if there wasn't like comic shops I could go dig through dollar bins, and I think some of you guys saw a couple books that I picked up a couple days ago. Like the fact that I, like that hunt is there for me. I used to own a warehouse where we processed used clothing, and we were always searching for vintage clothing, and it just translates really well. So if the hunt wasn't there, I wouldn't do it, right? Because there's other investments, but it's a hobby, Like I often Saturday morning I wake up and be like, should I go to the bar? Should I go to the comic shop? Like I'm gonna go to the comic shop, So it's a healthy outlet, right?
Of course.
But no, I mean for me, it's little side cash. It's fun. It's fulfilling, and then it's also like developing you know, it's important for me because the tangible part of comic books allows me to show my kids what's happening, right? And so I'll take my son to the comic. I'll give you an example. He wanted a new Nintendo Switch game, and I was like, I have an idea. Went to the comic shop, put him on the dollar bins, told him pick out a bunch of books. He picked out a bunch of books. I paid for him, but I took it out of his like loan for his side of the business. I bagged and board. I charged him for bags and boards. I put him in front of a straight up, dude.
Okay,
yes,
sure, yeah. It teaches him the value of it, right?
Yes, yeah. Right. I made him sit in front of a whatnot auction. I made him put the books up. I made him talk about the books. The books sold in auction. I made him help me pack. I deducted all the cost of goods for packing, the Geminis, the tape, everything. And after doing all of that, within like 3.5 total hours of work, he had accrued enough money for 2 Nintendo Switch games. Right. Nice. And so it's that, you know, like you could have a job at a, you know, in my world, it's like a startup or investment capital, but that's hard to transfer to your kids. Right. Where to me, this is a trade. It's a hustle. It's something when they're 16, they want a car. You know, come with dad.
But there's also enjoyment behind it. Like, I mean, there's the fun in it as well. Like, I mean, sure, there's like the business side of it, like buying and selling an item, but there's the fun in the books, and I think that's what keeps us kind of going back. Going back to those bins, going back to the store.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, ultimately,
I wouldn't do it if it wasn't lucrative. It wouldn't be all money out.
Yeah,
but I'm doing it I'm trying to do it in a way where I can make a little side money. I can build a legacy for my kids. I can teach them like the value of hustle. I can give them an outlet to make money when they're teenagers and help out. And yeah, I mean, it's just I like the tangible part of it. So ideally, I'm building some collection. But you know, I have my general theory is that there's a period of time. Early, like late 90s to like 2010, where the print runs were really low. And those books may be modern, but if you look at the print runs in those books when comics were dead compared to print runs of Bronze Age books, they were significantly lower. Right. And so, you know, digging those books out, like although they're shiny and glossy and have different types of art and aren't by like the Mount Rushmore of writers and artists from early comic books, like these are rarer books. These are hard. Like, I mean, Newbie and I have talked about some books, and I'll show him a book. He's like, literally, I've never seen that. It's a book from 2006. You know, so I think there's you're pitted against shop owners who think the way of like it's bronze, it's silver or bronze, and that's it, and they don't care about the modern books. And I'll go take all those books all day that are worth $60 for $1, right? Like,
there's so much free money out there, and like you know, me and Specs talk about that all the time. There's so much free money that people just don't want to, you know, do. So like that's again going back to like what I do is like, okay, you either get blamed because, you know, oh, you took all the copies, right? Or the next person would have done it anyway, or books just sit there and sit there, right? So it is what it is. But there's so much free money out there that you could help yourself kind of generate to a big key. And it also goes back to, you know, like what I said, if with the whole connections that we've had, like Chris, Specs Man, like I consider them friends, but I haven't met them, right? But I know them because of the hobby. But like, what if somebody in like, and I don't want to say California, but you know, what if somebody in Idaho or somebody in Iowa doesn't have, you know, the books that I have and they want to pay, right? Like you can connect with people and maybe, okay, I bought it for $1 and I sell it for $5 or $8 and they're happy paying $8 because
100% happy. Yeah.
Right. Like, so what's the harm? Everybody, it's just like a circle that helps everybody. So, you know, for sure. I don't know.
But anyone pays what they pay for it, and they should be content with that. Usually, I mean, it's up to them. So
that's part of like the hunt. Like not a lot of people do that and put that work into it. And for me, I look at it as also adding the value because you found that book and you're gonna bring it to somebody else, but you're gonna bring it to a point where it's worth more money, right? Rather than just sitting in a bin and you know.
Listen, I'll tell you right now, and maybe Specs can, you know. But I think that there's nothing more satisfying than hunting for a book, sending it off to CGC, it coming back like 9.8 or like some 9.6, right? Or something. But like I think there's nothing more satisfying than that because like you know that your end game and your price point. Like that first submission I said, you know, like my submission was $350, but my books were $8, so $358 in total. Yeah. I'm gonna be so satisfied knowing that like there's out of the 8, I think like 6 are 9.8. So like, you know, the fact that I found them in dollar bins and kind of, you know, went through the process of like cleaning, pressing, all that stuff. Like it is satisfying. So
it's funny
Okay,
that
so-
you mentioned. It's funny that you mentioned that because having worked in vintage clothing and we, being in LA, we've sold privately to designers, stylists, celebrities, and you'll get the occasional person who wants to dabble their toes in vintage, and they're like, "How much is this?" And I'll be like, $3,000, and I'm like, $3,000. Like, didn't you pay 50 cents for it? I'm like, yes, I paid 50 cents for it, but the difference between 50 cents is $3,000 is the work I went into to finding it, and the knowledge I went to knowing it was worth $3,000.
Right.
Like, that's what you're paying
100%.
$3,000 for,
Yeah.
right? And I feel the same way about books, right? Like,
Hey, Specs, we have a lot in common. My wife's a costume designer, and we do vintage clothing the same way. So
cool.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's kind of the point, right? Is like, you are, what I'm being paid for is my intellectual knowledge of comic books and the gas and the time it takes to go hunt, and like, when people talk about this is a $1 bin book and that kind of stuff, like, I'm on my hands and knees in dusty ass shops lugging long boxes around, like, that ain't free, that ain't free work, So anyway,
Sorry, I gotta highlight this. Michael asked twice now. Do we have any idea how many graders they've working on any given day? That's a good question. I have
273 and a half.
No,
Is that
and a half?
Yeah.
There's a kid working there.
Yeah. I don't know. All I know is
you only get $7.
I'm sure you guys are happy that some of these price increases going towards them hiring some stamp experts. So anyone into stamps, CGC is up in their stamp game. I know that much.
It's interesting because people are always like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's like CGC is inconsistent with grades, but CGC is too slow. CGC hires people to make themselves less slow, but then they're going to inherently be inconsistent with grades, right? And so like there is a natural evolution of things of like they might be less consistent for the next 6 to 12 months because they've hired more people, but as those people get trained and there's QA, then eventually those people will become better. But fucking hire a bunch of rookies. Like if a couple of my grades are off, that's fine. If like in perpetuity my submission takes less time, but like you can't have it both ways, and you can read as many overstreet guides to grading as you want, but until you've handled thousands and thousands of books, it is really hard to like look at them and understand the grades of them, and so it'll happen over time. But I'd rather have them hire a bunch of people that are not knowledgeable to give my books 9/8, and then they get better over time. So,
well, I wish some of these books that I just opened came back all 9/8. There's some gems in here, but I just thought I'd quickly show. There's only about maybe 9 books. One is D'Angelo, my presser, said to me, he's like, "Don't press it; it's not worth it." But I did because it was free. I got it with my Marvel Premiere 1, and when you see it, you hopefully understand. So I will be transparent and tell you where I found and how much I got these books for. So first one, X-Men 139. I think I got this for $15. I found this in a shop.
First Heather Hudson.
Yeah, and then Wolvie's costume change. But
that's
right.
right.
8.5, not bad.
I love that book.
It's a nice book. I'm not chuffed at 8.5. This I had in my collection. I wish it came back a 9.8, but unfortunately did not. It's an acquired taste. Not everybody's into Alpha Flight, but being a good old Canadian boy, I have to have one of these in my collection.
Would you believe? Would you believe I did not own a copy of that book until yesterday?
Oh yeah, really?
I bought one yesterday. Yeah, never had issue 1.
When that book came out in the early 80s, I was like a little kid, but like it was the biggest fucking deal, that book.
Yeah, of course.
Because it was Byrne at his peak. Anything he touched was gold, and it was Canadian, and we were Canadians. And, man, it was the greatest.
This one was $20, and I was really, really hoping for a 9.8. But this is a hold until we get some further news. But
I think 9.6 is just fine.
These days 9.6 is a 9.8. Like, I mean, some of the other submissions I got back that I got a bunch of 9.6s. But D'Angelo,
those books, it's like, okay, so that's also my philosophy. Some of these older books, you don't have, like, I think it's 9.8 or bust for a lot of people because they see the potential value. But I would look up what that book goes for in 9.6, and you paid 20, so I'm guessing all in all you're into it about $70 or US probably $60.
Yep.
Roughly, yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah,
I just want to look up on the census.
But-
Or,
I have them all up here too, but and then this one I sent another one in that was a little bit nicer because I knew this was not going to come back high grade. But if that one comes back high grade, I'll just sell this one off. But I think I got this one for $10 as well, which is I love this. This one,
my childhood.
right? There's only 2 in here that that I paid a little bit more for. Nothing was over $100. This one was $50. I was really hoping for an 8.0 or an 8.5, but
You know, 3 or 4 years ago, you would never have graded that book at that grade. But now, see, this is the neat thing about these older books is like I have like, I guess you'd call it a stock of books, and I'll send out all the 9.8s and get them all graded, and I'm like, now I've stuck with all these shitty 9.4s. But like 2 years later, those 9.4s are $800,
right?
Now I'm getting those graded, and it's like, they just keep giving back. So
Secret Wars 1 and a 9.6, 160 US. So if you talk about grading to increase value, you've literally now doubled the price of that book by just getting it slapped. So
awesome. What do those go for raw? Like $60, $70 in high grade?
For what, the Amazing Spider-Man? Secret Wars 1? Oh, raw?
Not even that, probably 50.
No, I don't even think that. I think you can still find them for a pretty good price.
So you're killing it.
Killing it. This is definitely not going for much right now, but I figured to get it done so that when we do get some news, I was really hoping for a 9.6 on this, but I do have another 9.4, and it is a newsstand edition. I think I paid. It was pretty cheap. I think I paid $15 for this. And Adrian can attest. We were out hunting, and he found a nice copy too. For how much was that, Adrian?
More than nice. I'm confident that thing's gonna get at least a 9.6. And I paid less than $20 for it.
Yeah, I remember finding that with you.
Ozzy, you know how much that book goes for in 9.4? $180.
US?
Seriously?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
There you go.
I thought it was like 120 or 100.
No,
so that's still pretty good though.
That's not bad. Okay.
No, but think about this, and like if we're trying to raise some money for a book, you get 25 books like that,
right?
Make $100 profit off each book. That's actually a lot of money in the course of like.
So this one, he told me not to send in, but it was free, and it came free with my Marvel Premiere 1. I sent it in because I call this book Rhonda because it is actually some kid signed it Rhonda, and I don't care if it's 3.0. I'm just going to keep this. It's fun.
I love that book.
It was free. So he did the best he could to make it look pretty, and I don't care. I like it.
It's one of the best covers of the Bronze Age too.
It's like Space Jesus, right? Like
Magus, first appearance.
Right. So 2 more here. Last one. I'm happy these last 2 came back. They did. This one, I think I paid a little bit more for. I think I paid $60 for this one, 65 maybe. So I know this one's going for, well, it's definitely going to have some legs in the future. So
that's Newbie's favorite book.
Yeah, Star Wars.
Yeah, man. I love the Ultimate Star Trek Adventures or whatever.
What's the first appearance of that? I don't follow.
That is what's his name? Ezra Bridger.
Okay. Kanan's first appearance as well, too, right?
There's a few first appearances in here too.
It's the guy with the sword
and then Sabine Wren. Yeah.
Every Star Wars book has 7 first appearances.
Yeah, I'm noticing that.
And last one. I'm really happy this came back 9.8.
Yeah.
That's a book you needed.
That's one of my favorites.
This is. So I'm really happy this came back a 9.8. I think
I got 2 out right now, man. So I'm hoping for 9.8 too.
I got this for $15. So
yeah,
this was I bought this like way last year. Like
I stacked that thing up about 5 years ago. You could get them in dollar bins back then.
Yep.
No, I got made fun of for buying it when I was buying it. I love that. I think it's an incredible book. I think it's like the 4th best Wolverine key.
Oh yeah,
it's. I'm going to be submitting 1 or 2 copies of that as well. I got a couple high grade copies. That was actually the very first wall book I ever bought as a kid.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, it was. It would have been the early 90s. It was more than $1. I think it was like $15 or $20, but it was first wall book I ever bought.
Yeah. Don't forget about issue 77 as well.
Yeah, I know. I have that
Which
too,
is
Rob.
cheap
But
as fuck.
yeah,
Yeah,
I like
You
the-
find it everywhere too.
Yeah.
That one
I
you
like
find
80
everywhere.
yeah.
I like 84 as well, which is the end of that run. It's also
Yes.
last Barry Windsor Smith on that run. It's
Yeah.
that wraparound half face of Wolverine.
It's gorgeous.
I have like
I'm
hundreds of
finding
copies
the
of that book.
Yeah.
I'm finding
I
the
know, so,
end
yeah.
of that run really hard to find. I'm still missing some issues. Some are just like complete ghosts for me. I don't know why.
Really?
Of the
Yeah,
Send me your
and,
list.
like
I'll send you them
75,
too.
76, 77, I find those all the time, but the what is it? I guess after that, what does that go up to? You said, I think you just said 80
100 and-
something.
84.
86.
No, just the Weapon X run.
Yeah, 80.
Adrian, send me your list. I probably have 25 copies of each.
Yeah, well, I know because I'm still missing some I have not been able to find.
That's it. That's it. And you can make it's back to.
I'm trying to
regular
find that
screen.
one, the last one in the run, which I believe is 84 in newsstand. I have hundreds of copies and 0 in newsstand. So the barcode's on the
I
back.
also love the back of this. The cover.
yeah.
I think the back cover
Mhm.
is the best on this
Yeah.
book.
That's Burn, right? The back cover.
I don't know actually.
Hmm.
Yeah, I actually don't know. I don't know if I don't think Buscemi did both front and back, but I actually don't know. Right on. Yeah, so that was like again, it was like this to getting together wasn't really about this unboxing. Like, I mean, there's unboxings all the time. It was just about to create this conversation about, like I said, getting books at awesome entry points, adding the value by putting the work in. And I know we all do that in our own way, right? With the books that we either want to sell, we want to keep, whatever. Like we put the time in to find them, time into to get them. I know Specs, you do your own pressing and cleaning as well. We send them out and putting the work in and reaping the rewards. So when people say you're a dirty flipper or whatever, I don't really care. Most of these I'm gonna turn around and sell because there's other books that I really want to get into. So these are just entry points into other books. I'm going to keep a couple of them. If I find something a little bit higher grade, I'll try and like flip that out. And I know some of us have done that. Like Newbie, you've done that with your, I think it was Astonishing X-Men. I think you went up from a 9.6 to a 9.8 or something like that.
Yeah, and then there was another one. There was a Fantastic Four book I did the same thing with. But it depends. Like great, like, if I were to get a 9.6, I mean, I would have to be like super sure, just simply because the grading is getting a little tougher to grade. So like just as easy as I could send it off and maybe get a 9.8 in the same sentence. It came back a 9.4, and you could possibly get it in a 9.4 as well. I've seen it go both ways. So
yeah,
I actually have a story about this that is relevant. I have a G.I. Joe 21 that I bought as a 9.6, and it was beautiful. And I bought the grader's notes back when you had to buy them, and it said there was like one dimple in the back cover, and I looked at it, and it was totally pressable. So I got it pressed and sent it through, and it came back a fucking 9.4. And I'm like, what? And then I sent it again, and it came back a 9.6, and I said, fuck it. And I sent it again, and I got a 9.8 because it was a 9.8 book. But it was
just keep
throwing it. $3,500 book now.
Just keep throwing it at the wall.
Yeah, but it's worth it on those kind of big dollar books. It cost me $300 or not even $200 to grade it that many times, and it went from like a $500 book to a $3,500 book. I mean, completely worth my time. But I believed in it.
I'm doing the same thing.
That's kind of a good segue into this. I wanted to highlight Tape Prime's comment here because one example for grading your books is right here is the difficulty, the challenge in pricing raw books, which you're absolutely right. The eBay it can be all over the place. If there was ever a good argument for grading, it's that right there. Getting a firm price on something.
I think I might be
most people can agree on.
In the minority in this, but I don't pay more than $50 for a raw book, unless it's like a ratio that came out or something. But like, I'm of the opinion that like when you start to look at raw prices, you have a razor thin margin of like going into the red by getting it graded. you know.
It depends on where you do it. But I mean, I paid $600 Canadian for this book, raw, and I got a 7.0 out of it, and it was, which brought, well, obviously it's more now, but I got this 2 summers or a year and a half ago, and 7.0 was $2,000 at that point. So you can't, if you're, it just depends how you find your books. Like everyone, if you're only going to shops, you're never going to get these. Like,
I mean, like
there's a lot of
that's out of like, it's like if you're buying collections or from a private seller or something like that. But like, you know, the question was about LCSs, and it's just I can't justify it, right? I can't justify taking that risk and waiting that time, and I just rather buy a graded version and whatever grade I'm most comfortable with at the price point, right? And especially anything older, bronze and silver, right? Like, I don't have, as you can see, I have a ton of slabs displayed. I don't have like raw books displayed, so it's almost at a minimum. It allows me to display some cool Silver Age stuff. But yeah, I just I've got, again, you know, the way I've seen price, and even on eBay, when I look at books, and I'm like, holy shit, that's a 6.5. It went raw for $190, and a 6.5 sells for $250. Like, it's not, you know, that's eBay, of course, but like, it's not worth the risk or gamble, in my opinion. I'd rather just buy the slab.
Yeah, I've been fortunate. I find that like I could buy like a Fantastic Four Annual 6 in a 5.5-ish raw, and you know, $150, and then it turns around into a $400 or $500 book in that same grade. But then again, it's not local comic shops I'm buying from, but on occasion I am. When new collections come in, I find if you're one of the first 5 guys, that guy's trying to get his money out of that collection. And if you buy a lot of books, like, you get up to 50% off those books.
I would agree. I think anytime
just
you get it at a significant discount, correct. But if you're getting it at like its price because the last one sold on eBay was this much at an LCS, it is a razor thin margin. Like, I got second appearance. Like, I got the second appearance at Kingpin, first Alpha Flight, a few other books this week for $300. Like, in reality, I paid $10 for that. You know, it's probably like a 1.5 of second appearance at Kingpin. I'm like, I'm never not going to buy that book for $20. But if that book was $120, like, absolutely not.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Right on. Well, gentlemen, I don't want to keep you all day, but I just, you know, I thought that'd be kind of fun conversation, because I know we're all, you know, into adding value. Again, it was just it, adding value to books.
Oh yeah.
Right. So, does anybody have anything else to say? What's coming up before we make our?
Oh yeah, I have my movie came out this week.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
So
there we go.
It's on all the VODs and Apple and Google and all that. So
my signed copy is on its way, or
it will be on its way. Yes,
I'm still waiting for mine.
I'll get you one. Don't worry. Yeah. Next time it sends some books to you, I'll throw one in.
Okay. So, yeah, sure. I'd love to see it.
Right
on. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's go around. Specs, you have anything coming up, or?
I'm just gonna try to make Newbie show later on today. Don't want to steal his thunder.
Oh yeah.
I have my first whatnot. I have my first whatnot sale in months tomorrow night. So
nice.
I'm back on whatnot. It's, you know, I think I have enough long boxes that I specifically bought to sell on whatnot that I need to start again selling on whatnot. And speaking of CGC, I'm looking at like a couple submissions there. I'm like, holy shit, I'm about to get a $5,000 CGC bill. Like, I'm gonna pay CGC $5,000 in the next 5 weeks. I probably should.
I'm in the same boat, man.
Yeah, truly make the hobby pay for itself. One thing that I'm doing there, and it's going to be a very interesting experiment, is I'm selling some books that I've already pressed. I'm just going to see how that impacts the price, right? Like Thor 20, for example, I'm selling one as pressed that I have pressed. It's definitely, I don't want to say definitely 9.8. It's really close to a 9.8. And then also what I'm doing is
it's a 9.8 candidate. That's how you say it.
Yeah, it's like it should be barring anything. Like, if I walked it into CGC right now, I'd be 99% sure it's going to be a 9.8. But mail is a whole different story. Yeah. And then also I'm offering people to DM me if they've purchased a book during the whatnot sale, and as long as they DM me within 24 hours, I'll charge them the discounted rate to press their book before I send it out.
Oh, that's awesome. Excellent.
So we'll see. Wow. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, books could sell for the same price they normally go for, and no one could DM me, but it's something I did want to try, because I would obviously appreciate, especially on a modern book, if it's like, look, I can just I don't have to do anything to it. I can just send it off. It's already pre-pressed and stuff. So we'll see. But yeah, that's it.
Excellent. Newbie, I know your show's coming up tonight, so anything else?
9:35 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, New Comic Book Day, news and spec. We're gonna tackle the Black Panther stuff as well. That's probably gonna be up for discussion.
I was fucking wrong on that book. I was so fucking wrong.
I think a lot of people were. Yeah.
Like.
So, but yeah, 9:35 p.m. Eastern time, and we're about. I say we. I don't know why I talk about it in third person, but Newbie versus 300 away from 3K. So yeah, there's gonna be a giveaway coming up soon. So yeah,
excellent. Dracula.
Yeah, all right. Actually, yes, just cruising. I'm totally down for that. I'm sure these guys are as well. And
oh man, I just did one.
Thank you.
Come on. Let's do it. I love it, man. I actually have a system now, so I'm pumped when I go out now. Like I have like a stand now that I could just put my phone and I literally just kind of
I caught the video. Is that what you did?
Yeah, I just put it right beside me. I go boop, and then it just goes through like all the books. Because sometimes people are like, "Noob, let me see what like you don't pick up."
It's hard. It's hard when you're doing that.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, I'll just bring my stand, drops, and then it just.
I watch a lot of garage sale videos on YouTube, and they have the chest harness.
Yeah,
like the GoPro.
Yeah. Also, I love the video. The concept was crazy. I'm like, shit, grab that one.
I was pausing at certain things, and I'm like, grab that one, dude. Yeah, we're doing the exact same thing. Sorry.
What was it gonna get to? So this Wednesday, I've got comic picks in the 4 and 6 with Comic Ozzi here.
Yeah.
Which by the way, we may have to start a bit earlier if you can swing it this week.
Yeah.
Because Wednesday night I will also be on Mr. Paul Cook's channel, Sector 2815. I will be on Guess That Key this Wednesday at 9:30.
Nice.
Sector 2815s with I believe if the usual suspects are there, it'll be Legion of Comics and Jake and Jesus from Spec Tales. They're usually on that show as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll be that's an awesome show. If you guys haven't seen it, everyone picks a key book, and it's sort of like a 20 questions things to determine, what book it is exactly. So that should be fun.
Excellent.
And anyways, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who showed up. I think this has been really great. Yeah, definitely consider doing that for sure. Yeah.
We can do a brunch. Everyone. We can do a brunch show, Sunday brunch show.
Yeah, we could.
Okay, awesome. I just have a quick rundown. We're doing comic picks in 4 and 6. I have a new episode of Inside the YouTube Studio coming up with Steve from Team Nerd Herd. Just editing it right now. I've got a couple of people on deck. I think the next episode after that is going to probably be BC from Kingpins, and then just keep that moving forward. And then a couple little videos in between, but working on that show, trying to develop and get it out there and a little bit bigger. So, but I appreciate everybody, for sure, showing up today. Man, it was a fun chat. I
love unboxings. That's my favorite kind of video. I love talking about the books you unbox, why you bought them, all that shit. I love it. It's my favorite.
And he didn't do the whole like cradle it, tape it. And
this thing.
Oh my god! Vancouver and I have talked about this, but it's like I had never intended to cheat, but I look at the grades 99% of the time. So it's like,
what's the other one they do? This.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Anyways. Thanks guys for taking the time. Appreciate it. Adrian, thank you for moderating. I appreciate it. I'm very new at that, so I appreciate you helping me out with that for sure. So,
anytime.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, guys. I think that's it for the afternoon. Appreciate it. And
thank you.
See you guys at 9:35 p.m. Eastern time.
See you guys.
That's right.
Bye.
See you guys later.